Welcome to the SAG-AFTRA Foundation's Conversations at Home program. I'm Jenelle Riley from Variety. Before we're joined by today's guests, I want to let you know that the SAG-AFTRA Foundation is a nonprofit organization that relies entirely on donations to provide emergency assistance and free educational program to SAG-AFTRA artists. This conversation today is made possible thanks to the generosity of our supporters. Over the past year, the foundation has given nearly $7 million in COVID relief to more than 7,000 performers. So if you are a SAG-AFTRA artist and you need help, please ask. And if you can help, please give. Information can be found in the description of this video. Thank you for your support. And now, without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce actor Kenan Thompson from Kenan. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure, Jenelle. My pleasure. What a great intro.
Well, I wanted to call you the hardest working man in show business because I believe you fly back and forth.
Yeah, I'm starting to get that reputation these days. We were flying back and forth a lot more in season 1. We had to do it like 5 times. And then season 2, we only did it twice. So
really?
Yeah. And we're all done with that. We finished that like the day before Halloween. So yeah.
You're shooting Kenan in LA and Saturday Night Live New York.
Yes. But we finished season 2 and it's ready to roll out.
Wow, that's amazing. Because you are being joined by an audience of fellow actors, I actually always like to start by asking, what was your first job as an actor? I don't even know if you remember because you started so young.
Yes, I mean, I guess my first technical acting gig was playing the gingerbread man in my kindergarten play. You know, that's technically performing. But like my first paying job was for a fried chicken restaurant commercial.
Really?
Yeah.
Which one? Is it one we might know?
No, but if you look it up, there's very funny old-timey commercials that they did. It's called Lee's Famous Country Recipe Chicken. And they had branches in all the states except for Georgia. So I never got to see the commercial.
No way.
I couldn't find it, but they have some other ones that are pretty funny.
I lit up when you said gingerbread man because I was also the gingerbread man.
I see that. Cool. Amazing. Very cool.
Yes. And I can, what is it? You can't catch me.
Yeah, you can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread man. I don't know how many times I said it.
Well, all the way from that, you are now Saturday Night Live's longest running cast member, and you have your own sitcom, Kenan on NBC. I believe there's been talk for quite a while about developing a show for you. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, we've been working on it. I've been through the cycle like 3 times. This is the third idea, basically, that has finally gotten the green light and the go, and it's latched on to everything it's needed to latch on to, you know, but in front of the camera and behind. So we're really, you know, happy with the work that's being done.
When did it all begin? Does someone just come to you, and is it as simple as saying we should do a sitcom, and then you kind of have to, you know, spitball ideas?
No, you have to be doing very well somewhere. You know what I mean? And then people are like, oh, okay, well, who are you doing all of that good work with? Maybe you guys should develop an idea. And, you know, that's how that kind of started. And then, you know, it moved on to another idea with, you know, some other people. And then that one, you know, hit a wall as well, unfortunately. And now we're on this idea, but I still keep, you know, the people that I work with, you know, the most and best, you know, very close to me. So however we, you know, whatever we wind up doing, whether they created it or not, they'll still be involved in some sort of capacity, you know, and that makes me happy to just, you know, be able to keep the same kind of team in some sort of fashion.
So who came up with or developed the concept you went with for Kenan, where your character is a widower who also hosts this morning show, Wake Up with Kenan, and has these 2 delightful little girls?
Cutest little girls ever. It was a collaboration between myself and Jackie Clark. It was a phone call where she had an idea and I had a similar idea. And it was like, well, we're obviously supposed to be working on this together. And then we went through different, phases of the script and, you know, phases of the actual idea itself. Like we shot a pilot when Chris Rock directed it, and then they wanted to make changes. So we shot another pilot like a year later, you know, or they picked up the season a year later based on pitch or something, however it went. But it was a complete kind of pivot with casting and what my profession was. And that's when I became a talk show host. So, that kind of happened in the final hour. And it's funny how that seems to fit the show the most, something that happened at the last minute. It's crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know how much it differed from like when you started. Was there ever a version like where you were a small town detective or anything like that? Or was this always DNA? Because I would watch that.
I was a real estate agent at first.
Oh.
As exciting as real estate is, unfortunately, they wanted to move away from that.
So I want to talk about this amazing cast. And I mentioned your two young daughters who play Birdie and Aubrey. I think it's Danny and is it Dana Lane?
Yes, Danny and Dana. That's right.
They are amazing. Like I want to say that these parts must have been written for them, but I know that's probably not how it works.
I mean, it feels that way. It definitely was like twins when we wrote it. And then when we saw that they weren't twins, it didn't really matter because they worked so well together. And then I thought they were just two kids, like separately. And then I was like, they're sisters. I was like, well, they're so close. Like, are they twins? And they're like, no, they're a year apart. I'm like, oh, wow, that's even cooler. Like imagine being able to work on, a network sitcom with your sibling. It has to be one of the greatest, ways to grow up in the business. I thought that was my narrative for them. So I was like, yeah, they're perfect. And then I found out they were from Atlanta and they have an amazing family and a super strong mother and two other super awesome sisters and stuff like that. So they're just so wonderful. And we're so beyond blessed to have found them and are able to work with them and watch them mature and like watch them get better and better at being little professionals. It's just amazing.
Were they familiar with your work? Because I would think they'd be a little intimidated.
Oh, I mean, yeah, but I caught them when they were still babies. So, any kind of adult stranger danger. So as long as you like come down on their level and meet them and be nice to them and, never kind of stray out of that behavior, then you're fine. So we became close very quickly.
I mean, you started at such a young age. So you when you look at young actors or kid actors, you probably can see the red flags, if that makes sense, and
it might be, parents or something like that. That's always when it's like unfortunate when someone can get derailed by not their own doings,
Absolutely. That's what I heard a casting director say. You're not just hiring them, you're hiring their family.
Yeah, their family and whoever they choose to bring in their circle, basically. It could be, friends or whatever, but you're definitely hiring their choices, so you hopefully you agree with what you think their choices will be based on their character.
I mean, we've seen like so many people who start young, encounter problems along the way because it's a very tough business. It is. How did you manage to avoid that? You've always seemed to have like a really good sense of self.
Thank you. I'm close with my family. I grew up a respectful boy, but I also wasn't necessarily overly in the business until I was already 15, so I was already kind of who I was going to be by that point. And luckily that was someone who's very close to family, respectful of his parents and respectful of elders and things like that. And, just driven. I just want to work. And I was trained in my high school years by very, very serious theater people like, Tony Bird and rest in peace, Freddie Hendricks and, people that were in the kind of Atlanta generation of theater actors that New York had when like Larry Fishburne and Wesley Snipes and all those guys and Sam Jackson were all like in the theater together kind of thing. So the Atlanta version of that, I was taught by, those people.
You say you were already 15. That's still young.
Yeah, that's very young. But as far as like being a child necessarily, I was a little past that.
Yeah. So going back to this amazing cast, I'm finding like a whole new generational crush on Don Johnson. He's right. So wonderful in this. I don't know that I've ever seen him in a sitcom.
I mean, Nash Bridges has some comedic sensibilities to it, but it's funny you say that because I thought the same thing. I was like, they're thinking about Don Johnson for a sitcom. And then I started like catching him in Watchmen. Right. Character had to you do a little song at a dinner, table gathering or whatever, and he had to sing to a little girl, and like that kind of tenderness and also like openness to perform like that. I was like, oh, well, he can probably do whatever. And then I watched like Knives Out and he was great in that. And then, I went back and watched Django and he was impressive and like, funny in that, which is a hard thing to pull off in such an awful character or whatever. So I was like, yeah. And then we FaceTimed and within 2 seconds, we were both just like vibing with each other as fathers, as actors. It was very cool. So I was like, yeah, he's the guy for sure. He's
wonderful in this movie called The Other Woman. That it was just one of those movies that caught me by surprise. And he you see his star power in that. But I guess I'm wrong. I thought he was sort of semi-retired.
I mean, that's the ups and downs probably of this business. But no, I guess he's just been doing more films, what I mean, as opposed to like television. And, I guess Nash Bridges was on for a long time, but it was on USA. You know what I'm saying? So unless you were watching USA, you might have missed that whole era or something. But hey, he's doubling up. They just put the movie out. That's another check, baby.
Yeah, he's so fantastic. And I absolutely adore your fellow SNL cast member, Chris Redd, just with his eyes. He can just open his eyes and I start to crack up.
Yeah. Yeah, Chris is great, man. It's great to be able to work, with someone that I work so well with, little brother, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's been a blessing to have him come aboard the project and just take it to that next level.
Did you know him prior to him joining Saturday Night Live?
No, I had yet to meet him. He'd done Pop Star with Sandberg and those guys, but I hadn't met him yet. So I met him like first day on the job. And, that place has a history of, competition, you know what I'm saying? So it could have gone one way or the other. He could have looked at me as a threat or embraced me, and he embraced me like I embraced him. And since then we've been, just making magic whenever we hit the bullseye, you know what I'm saying? Whether it's Comeback Barack or whatever else, So I love working with Chris.
There's a line we always quote, me and my friends from Family Feud, where he's like, I invented a new color, plorange. I don't know why it's so funny, but he makes it funny.
Expressive. That's his talent. I mean, that's what an actor's supposed to do, is take the words and bring them to life. And he does that at a super high level. So he will soon be getting his flowers from the world. They'll realize what a treasure he is for sure.
So there was no hesitation on the part of Lorne Michaels to let two of his, cast members out?
No, I mean, it was kind of what the show needed, because when we did the original pilot, we didn't have that, just for that sake, because picking from, current cast members is kind of like off limits, unless Lorne gives that blessing, or you create the show with that person in mind from the beginning and it goes through the stages and everybody knows that they're going to be in it. You know what I mean? And this is a thing that's going. So to get a thing going and then try to cast out of the SNL pool is just like, no. Who do you think you are? Right. So he had to bless us with that. Yeah.
Did you always know that you would stay on Saturday Night Live, even if the show took off?
I mean, I guess by the time we got around to doing the show, yeah, just because like I've been in the mindset of you can still do whatever you want and just do SNL as well. They just need to schedule it.
I mean, do you ever foresee a time when you will leave SNL? Because I just can't even imagine what that would be like for us, let alone for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's never necessarily a time I want to look forward to, just because you'll always miss it. You'll always dearly miss the times. It'll always be different when you come back and visit, just because you'll be so outside of the inside jokes. You'll just be coming in for a moment, and hopefully you can, kind of still be on some email chains or whatever, or hanging around some parties or working with some people that are still kind of connected. But if you get too far detached and you come in, you'll just feel that lost feeling, when you go back to your old high school. It's like, I don't really belong here. Yeah.
I imagine, I think I've told you before that I went to a taping not too long ago, and you still come out at the beginning and sing before every show. Like it doesn't seem like you have ever gotten jaded or tired of it.
No, it's tiresome, but no, I don't get tired of tradition, you know what I mean? I think traditions are put in place for a reason. You know, it's out of respect. It's out of respect for what performing is, what show business is, what entertaining people means to people, all of that, you know, and I take that very seriously. So it's a pleasure when it goes right. It's hard when it goes mediocre. And when it goes bad, I laugh at it.
So obviously on Saturday Night Live, you play so many characters and people. Coming to Kenan, what have been the challenges and the things that you really like about playing one character over a sustained time?
I guess the challenge is to try to find the depth of the character and not do the same performance every time it's time for me to deliver some lines. You know what I mean? Like just trying to find what my up and down tone is, when to get excited, when to play it more subtle, you know, and just figuring out like who this person is that I'm trying to bring to life. You know, I'm playing a widower. So how do I play a widower that respects what that is, but is also not overly just stuck in sadness or stuck in, you know, old, you know, I don't want to do that, you know, I'm trying to be the nice guy or any of that. Like try not to be too much of any one direction, which is, it's interesting, you know, it's an interesting journey to do that as well as be comedic. You know, that's the most important, you know, part of a sitcom, in my opinion. Whatever I'm doing, like character fishing wise, needs to be headed towards a laugh.
I just recently rewatched the episode where Kenan sort of decides to date for the first time. And it's very funny, but it's also like really beautifully handled. Like I was really touched by it. I mean, do you find, I believe if you can do comedy, you can do anything, but having to do those more dramatic scenes, is that challenging for you?
It's exciting. I don't know if it's challenging. I guess it's emotionally, you know, taxing, I guess, just because to go to those places, you probably have to think of, you know, things that you haven't thought of in a while, or, you know, you're trying to, you know, mimic a feeling and, you know, where did I get that feeling from? So it just brings you back to, you know, probably not the happiest of places. But at the same time, it's taxing because you want to get it right. You know what I mean? There are real widowers out there that are like dealing with these situations. And I was getting a lot of DMs and stuff like that, where they were just like, you handled this so great. And like, I'm a widower as well. And then like, this really touched me and spoke to me. And it was so like honest and real. And like, that is, you know, the ultimate, you know, satisfaction, in my opinion, is getting it right for those that are really living that.
I love how the show has managed to still incorporate Kenan's late wife with, you know, through these clips of their old show together. I don't know who came up with that idea, but it's brilliant.
Yeah, Jackie was brilliant, man. And then we brought in David Cass, you know, who was showrunning Black Monday with, you know, Cheeto and stuff. And he's been excellent as well. And we brought in some new people this year, Kenny Smith and Lisa Bryant. And, you know, like, it's just been turning into a really, really solid team that has nothing to do with my involvement, which makes me happy. So like whenever I'm involved, it's like, yeah, hopefully I'm doing what I've been hired to do, which is why I feel so strongly about the cast. Like when I'm not on camera, the show is almost even stronger. You know what I mean? Like how I'm looking at it, because I can just focus on them. You know, it's just so wonderful. And that lets me know that we have a solid foundation to build on, which is a blessing. And if we're allowed to continue to build, you know, Lord willing and NBC willing, you know, I think we'll get to some pretty awesome places with the show.
And you have so many funny people on this show. How much improv is there, or do you know, try to keep it scripted?
I mean, there's definitely some takes where we're like, all right, let's just let loose and do one where we, you know, just want to do whatever. But we also kind of love the writing. So we service the writing pretty on point. They're on point with it. And then, you know, if we want to fish for a better joke, you're always allowed to pitch. You know, anybody's allowed to pitch. But, you know, it's been really funny. And everybody's been kind of in agreement with like, I think we should kind of perform it how it's written and then see what happens after that. And everyone is so talented that they can just make whatever funny. You know what I mean? So it's almost hard to gauge whether we need to fish for a better joke, you know, because we're all kind of just enjoying each other's talents. It's amazing.
Again, I think one of the hardest parts of doing this show would be not laughing and ruining a take.
Yeah, all the time. I mean, luckily, like the way we're able to shoot on, you know, tape as opposed to like costly or, you know, flammable film, is that we can just, take it from where we, kind of messed it up or whatever, or take it back to a certain point and keep it moving. So even if we do stop and start, it's not as staccato as it might seem.
So I know you've already shot the second season and you have the Christmas episode airing December 15th before season 2 really starts in January. What can we expect from this season?
I think we can just expect good times, starting especially with that Christmas episode. It's always my favorite time of year. It's very warm, very family. But, when you're with your family, you don't want to necessarily be bored. So if you can have something that we're all entertained by and laughing at, it can only be a good thing. And then the second season just rolling out right behind that, I think it's such a blessing for us, because we can just keep that hype train rolling. And if people like the Christmas episode, I thoroughly believe they're going to enjoy the whole season. So then you'll have 2 seasons to go back and binge if you want, and watch the episodes out of order and really start to just love the show for what it is, as opposed to like wondering like, okay, where is this going? And like, can I tell like what's going to happen at the end of the season and how are the like characters developing? It's like, no, you can just watch it like old reruns of Martin and just enjoy it. Yeah.
Will we be able to see more Vanessa Williams in season 2?
I wish. I definitely wish. I feel like she might have been busy, but she'll be coming back whenever she's available. I'm sure.
She's fantastic.
Yeah, she's so wonderful. She was so nice and just down to do whatever. Like, I didn't know she was so like kind of around the way girlish. You know what I mean? Like, she's just very like neighborhood chilling. Like, she's very cool and she talked to everybody. And yeah, as much of a legend and icon, with diva status as she could have been, she definitely was not that. Yeah, she's amazing.
Isn't that refreshing?
Beyond refreshing. Like, wait, we can actually get some work done.
Yeah. Because I'm sure, especially being on Saturday Night Live so long, you've seen the gamut from, the really cool to the more challenging, we'll say. Yeah.
And that's the funny thing that SNL has taught me is dealing with personalities, So some people you just have to decode. And luckily she's not one of those people.
That's awesome. Well, it is such a fun show. It's such a special show. I want to thank you so much for joining us today, for sharing your thoughts and your craft with your fellow performers.
Thank you. It's beyond my pleasure to just, speak to a performer's kind of audience, because we all think the same way. We know the struggles that we go through. So keep your head up. Don't listen to the word no when it's audition time, and just keep doing what you're doing. It's all about getting on those radars.
Absolutely. And again, I cannot wait for season 2.
Thank you so much. Same, by the way.